What happens when you stop chasing someone? Not with anger, not with drama, but with silence. Most people believe walking away means losing. Sigmund Freud believed the opposite. Because the human mind does not panic when it is rejected. It panics when it is no longer needed. This video explores 7 psychological experiences people feel when you stop chasing them. Through the lens of Freudian psychology, unconscious desire, ego, and emotional dependency. This is not about manipulation. This is about understanding the mind. You waited. You cared more than you should have. And then one day, you stopped. No long message, no closure speech. Just absence. That moment creates a psychological shift, not in you, but in them. Freud taught that the mind reacts more strongly to loss of emotional supply than to loss of love itself. Because love feeds the heart. But attention feeds the ego. When attention disappears, the unconscious wakes up. According to Sigmund Freud, the human psyche is divided into 3 forces. The ID, which seeks pleasure. The ego, which seeks control and validation. And the superego, which seeks meaning and morality. When you chase someone, you feed their ego. When you stop, you threaten it. This threat triggers psychological responses. These responses are rarely spoken, but they are deeply felt. Now we begin the 7 experiences. The first thing they feel is confusion. Not clarity, not relief, but confusion. Their mind asks a question it is not used to asking. Why did they stop? Freud explained that the ego expects consistency. It expects patterns. When a pattern breaks, the mind enters discomfort. They replay past conversations. They analyze your tone. They reread old messages. Not because they miss you yet, but because their mind needs explanation. Your absence becomes a puzzle, and the human mind hates unanswered puzzles. When you were chasing, your presence was predictable. Predictability feels safe to the ego. When you stop, the ego loses its reference point, and confusion sets in. This confusion is not emotional. It is cognitive. They are not thinking, I lost them. They are thinking, something changed. And change creates anxiety. They check their phone, nothing. They assume you are busy. Then hours pass. Then days. They tell themselves it doesn't matter, yet they notice the silence. Confusion grows quietly. The second thing people feel is ego discomfort. Freud believed the ego survives on validation. Attention confirms importance. Chasing confirms value. When you stop chasing, the ego feels questioned. Not attacked, questioned. They begin to wonder if they were ever as important as they believed. This is deeply uncomfortable. Ego discomfort does not feel like sadness. It feels like irritation, restlessness, subtle anger. They may not miss you yet, but they miss how you made them feel about themselves. Freud described this as narcissistic injury, a small wound to self-image. Even healthy egos feel it. They scroll through social media. They post more than usual. They seek reactions. Not because they want attention from others, but because they lost it from you. The third experience is loss of control. When you chase someone, they unconsciously lead. They decide pace. They decide distance. When you stop, control shifts. Freud taught that control provides psychological security. Losing it creates internal tension. They no longer know where they stand with you, and that is unsettling. Control is not always dominance. Sometimes it is simply knowing you are there. When you disappear emotionally, the balance changes. They may test you, a casual message, a reaction to your story. Not to reconnect yet, but to see if control still exists. They send a short message, nothing emotional, just enough to provoke response. If you reply instantly, control returns to them. If you don't, discomfort deepens. At this stage, they are not missing you. They are missing certainty. But psychology moves in stages. Confusion becomes reflection. Ego discomfort becomes emotional awareness. Loss of control becomes longing. At this point, something important happens. The silence is no longer just noticed, it begins to be felt. Freud believed the unconscious mind reacts slowly. But when it reacts deeply. What started as confusion now turns inward. The fourth thing people feel when you stop chasing them is curiosity. Not romantic curiosity, psychological curiosity. They begin to wonder what you are doing, who you are talking to, whether you stopped caring or simply stopped trying. Freud described curiosity as a defense mechanism. The mind searches for answers to protect itself from uncertainty. Your absence becomes mentally loud. Curiosity is triggered when access is removed. When information is limited, imagination fills the gap. They imagine scenarios, some favorable, some threatening, and the most powerful thought appears quietly. What if I misjudged their value? This is when your psychological presence grows stronger, even without contact. They check your social media. They notice details they ignored before. A caption, a photo, a change in tone. They are not stalking, they are observing. Curiosity keeps them mentally connected. The fifth experience is emotional withdrawal anxiety. This is the turning point. Freud believed emotional bonds create dependency. Not always love, but emotional familiarity. When that familiarity disappears, the nervous system reacts. Not dramatically, subtly. They feel unsettled, restless, emotionally off balance. This anxiety is not about losing you. It is about losing emotional stability. You were part of their emotional routine, even if they didn't value it consciously. The unconscious notices the gap, and the body responds. They feel distracted during the day. Their mood shifts for no clear reason. They think about reaching out, then stop. This internal push and pull is emotional withdrawal anxiety. Freud described this as the mind reacting to emotional deprivation. They feel distracted during the day. Their mood shifts for no clear reason. They think about reaching out, then stop. This internal push and pull is emotional withdrawal anxiety. Freud described this as the mind reacting to emotional deprivation. By now, the psychological balance has shifted. You are no longer the one seeking. They are no longer completely secure. The next experiences go deeper. Because now, emotion enters the equation. At this stage, silence has done its work. The mind can no longer ignore what the heart avoided. Freud believed that when external stimulation disappears, the unconscious speaks louder. And now it does. The sixth thing people feel when you stop chasing them is emotional projection. They begin to project feelings onto you that actually belong to themselves. Freud described projection as a defense mechanism. When the mind cannot accept its own emotions, it assigns them to someone else. They assume you are angry. They believe you are hurt. They imagine you are trying to punish them. But the truth is quieter. They are feeling these emotions, not you. Projection protects the ego from vulnerability. Admitting, I miss them, feels weak. So the mind says, they are upset. Admitting, I regret my behavior, feels uncomfortable. So the mind says, they are playing games. This mental reversal allows them to feel without admitting it. Freud believed this was the ego's last shield. They tell others, they stopped talking to me on purpose. They're probably trying to make me feel bad. But no accusation feels complete. Because deep down, they know something was lost. The seventh and final experience is delayed realization. This is the most painful one, because it arrives late. Freud believed humans only recognize value after emotional distance is created, not immediately, but slowly, when the noise fades. When ego defenses weaken, that is when realization enters. They realize you were consistent. They realize you were present. They realize you were emotionally available. But now you are not. This realization does not feel dramatic. It feels heavy. It comes during quiet moments, at night, in stillness. They remember how you listened, how you waited, how you stayed. And they realize something painful. You didn't leave suddenly. You left after trying for a long time. Freud believed regret is strongest when the mind understands it cannot reverse time. This is why realization comes last. By the time it arrives, the dynamic has changed. When you stop chasing someone, you don't control them. You control yourself. And that changes everything. Freud taught that emotional power comes from balance, not pursuit. When attention is constant, it loses value. When it is withdrawn, it gains meaning. This is not manipulation. This is psychology. Silence forces the mind to reflect. Distance reveals emotional truth. Some people will never reach realization. Their ego will protect them forever. Others will feel all 7 experiences. Quietly, internally. And by the time they understand what your presence meant, you will no longer be chasing. You will be free.